When it comes to rappers who made a real impact, but never quite got the credit they deserved, Redman's name should be at the top of that list. From the wild energy he gives off, as well as his razor-sharp lyricism.
Get out. I rule the world like Curtis Blow with my afro blown out. I'm toned out the frame, drunk style stagger like the wino.
To the classic bangers he dropped in the 90s.
Yeah, you ready to get down, man? Whatever, man. You ready to get this on? Whatever, man.
And of course, you can't forget his legendary feuds with some of the biggest names in the industry.
That MC Hammer, very serious about beef. Y'all motherfuckers laugh and y'all joke about Hammer. No. MC Hammer was there. That approached me. He was like, Red, I'm gonna tell you something, you young, but I don't allow nobody talking about my mama. You understand me? I said, yes, sir.
Redman definitely lived and did everything to the full. He stayed true to himself, with his gritty, raw, and undeniable talent. But somehow, his name always flew under the radar when people talked about the greats. So this is the full story of how Redman became one of the most respected, but still one of the most underestimated, rappers in hip-hop history. Let's get into his story. Reginald Redman Noble was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, a city known for its toughness and raw energy. But for a young kid growing up there in the 80s, life wasn't easy. Redman recalled his childhood neighborhood as a place where you had to be tough just to survive.
Brick City in the 80s was, it was pretty wild. Like my area, my block, 20th Street and South Orange Avenue. Between 13th and 12th Avenue.
Brick City wasn't just some ordinary neighborhood, it was packed with big families, where houses were always full of people. But at the same time, the streets were crawling with gangsters and hustlers. According to Redman, every time you stepped outside, you had to be ready to throw hands.
My block was so many dudes and gangster. So every time you came out your door, you just had to be fighting.
But it wasn't just the streets that shaped him. It was also the generation before him. His father was one of the many men from Newark who went to fight in Vietnam. Meanwhile, his mother worked in affirmative action for over 30 years, fighting for better opportunities in their community.
A lot of people from Newark, New Jersey went to Vietnam, you know, from the riots. My pops was one of them. And my mother, she did affirmative action for Newark, New Jersey for over 30, 40 years.
As Redman got older, Newark only got worse. The violence escalated, and the streets became even more dangerous. While outsiders thought New Jersey was mostly known for carjackings, Redman said that was just easy work compared to the real problem: murders happening left and right.
You know, everybody think like New Jersey is just known for carjacking. No, that was like, you know, that was just easy work, you know, that we got known for. But, you know, it's just way worse than that, as far as like the murders.
The homicide rate was out of control, and Redman saw it all firsthand. The streets got so wild that killing almost became a trend, something that happened so often it started to feel normal. And the people Redman was rolling with were right in the middle of it. He knew what that life was like because he was surrounded by it every day.
It got so bad to, it was like a fad to like, you know, my crew that I hung around, you know, they were part of that, you know, so I know what it was like.
Redman's crew was deep in the streets. His brother and close friends were all heavily active, with most of them ending up doing 10 to 12 years in prison, or even longer. Out of everyone he ran with, he was one of the few who managed to escape that fate.
My brother and them and my crew, they were heavily active. Like my brother, he did 10, 11 years. All my crew members that I hung with, they did 10 or 12 years and better.
Even though he hung around with some serious people, he always had this feeling that the streets weren't for him. He didn't want to live his life constantly running, always looking over his shoulder. And after getting caught up in a few robberies, he learned that lesson the hard way. One time during a robbery, Redman refused to run. That decision cost him. He got stomped out so bad that he ended up hiding under a car. That moment was a turning point for him. After that last job, he told himself, this ain't for me.
The one robbery, I got stomped out and under a car because I didn't want to run, but my crew knew to run. So it was like after that last robbery, I was just like, that, you know, this not for me.
One of the most unforgettable moments in his life was the day his mother kicked him out for selling drugs.
Didn't your mom kick you out of the house for selling weed?
Yes, she did. Well, she kicked me out of the house because it was coke.
He was just a young kid trying to make money, selling both coke and weed. But when he got into the coke game, he went all in. He remembers the exact moment his mother found out. He was sitting at the dinner table like nothing was wrong, wearing a hat, a move he knew would piss her off because she always told him not to wear hats at the table.
I got my hat on and I had my Coke bottles up under my hat. And I'm sitting at the dinner table like a with the hat on, knowing she gonna tell me to take it off.
Sure enough, she told him to take the hat off, and the second he lifted it off his head, the Coke he had stashed under it went flying everywhere. That was it. His mother didn't hesitate. She packed up his stuff and put him out on the spot.
She said, take that hat off at the dinner table. I'm like, come on, Mom. Coke everywhere. She immediately packed my put my ass right out.
But that wasn't the only time his mother proved how strong she was. Redman also shared a story that perfectly captured her resilience. Their house had a serious roach infestation, the kind that most people wouldn't believe unless they saw it.
And it all started with a roach. Like we had mad roaches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had mad mice and we had mad roaches, and everybody know, don't nobody want to live with no roaches.
He recalled how every time someone touched the toaster, roaches would scatter from underneath it. But the breaking point came one day while his mom was trying to serve them food. Out of nowhere, a roach jumped out and landed right on her nose.
One day, like she was fixing us breakfast before we go to school, right? And she opened the cabinet door to get us some cereal, and a roach jumped out and jumped on her nose.
That was the moment she decided enough was enough. She refused to let them live like that anymore. She worked even harder to improve their living situation, determined to give her kids a better future. Redman always respected her strength and was inspired by her.
She said, that is it.
Yes.
That is it. I seen us going with her, trying to find a job after that, and I seen it come up, and that's what inspired me.
Even though he was running in the streets, Redman was always drawn to music. He started rapping seriously when he was 16, but it wasn't until he heard EPMD's Strictly Business album that everything clicked. That record changed his life. He remembered the exact moment it happened. He was in his room, and as soon as the album started playing, it was like a light bulb went off in his head, and from that point forward, he was all in.
Once I heard EPMD album, Strictly Business, that's when the light bulb went off over the head.
At 18, he started going by the name DJ Cut Killa, rocking parks and house parties in New York and New Jersey. He would freestyle over funk and hip-hop instrumentals on vinyl, sharpening his skills. But the name Redman came later, thanks to a snowball to the face. One day, a girl threw a snowball at him, and when it hit him, his whole grill was red from the impact. From that moment on, people started calling him Red. He liked it, so he just added man to it, and the name Redman was born.
Something happened in your childhood almost, right?
Yeah. I was like a real high yellow brother, you know what I'm saying? Homegirl hit me in the face with a snowball. My whole grill was just red, so they just started calling me Red, and I put on the mint.
Redman was grinding hard, but his big break came when he caught the attention of Eric Sermon from EPMD. At the time, Redman was DJing for Lords of the Underground, and when Sermon saw him, he knew immediately that there was something special about him. I knew there was something spectacular about him right off the bat, Sermon later said. They talked the next day, and within just a couple of months, Redman had packed up and moved into Sermon's apartment in Long Island. Living with Sermon changed everything. Redman hit the road with EPMD, going on tour and doing whatever was needed. At first, he was carrying their bags, handling small tasks, but then he started getting on stage and freestyling, and that's when things really took off. In 1990, at an EPMD show in New York, Redman had his big moment. Sermon invited him on stage, and he didn't waste the opportunity. He delivered a freestyle that had the whole crowd going crazy. He rapped about himself using every letter in the alphabet, from A to Z, proving to everyone in the building that he was the real deal. That night changed his life. After that performance, Redman officially became a rap artist and started working on his music under the mentorship of Eric Sermon.
It's the rap city today. Unfortunately, Chris Thomas couldn't be here because we done tied him up and held him hostage, so I'm taking over the show today.
By 1990, Redman was no longer just an underground talent making noise in the streets. He was officially on the industry's radar. He made his debut on EPMD's album Business as Usual, featuring on the tracks Hardcore and Brothers on My Jock. That moment put him in front of a much larger audience, proving that he had the skills to stand alongside some of the best in the game. Whut, the album. 2 years later in 1992, Redman dropped his debut album, Whut, the album, which set the tone for his entire career.
The new album is called What? It's the funkadelic and I'm kicking it with the style to make you. No, not that one. One more time, roll me. What is spelled W-H-U-T with an upside down question mark.
The album was a wild mix of reggae and funk influences combined with his sharp, in-your-face rap style. Critics praised the project, and it climbed to number 49 on the Billboard 200 before eventually going gold. The success of the album earned him the title of Rap Artist of the Year from The Source, which was a major cosign at the time. But not everything was smooth sailing. Around this time, Redman found himself caught up in a feud with MC Hammer. Back then, a lot of rappers were taking shots at Hammer because he didn't fit the real hip-hop image. What many of them didn't realize, though, was that Hammer wasn't someone to mess with. He had serious connections in the streets, and he wasn't afraid to check anybody who came at him sideways. Redman had included an intro track on his album Whut, the album called Funky Uncles, where a character dissed Hammer and his family, saying things like, "Your mama ain't ish, your daddy ain't ish, ain't nobody ish." Hammer took offense to the diss and decided to make it clear to Redman that he wasn't playing.
And I was like, well, you know what? That MC Hammer, him, his mama, and the whole nine. That came up to me on MTV Cribs on the last episode they had.
When Redman came to Oakland, Hammer's affiliates chased him out of the city. Redman later admitted they barely made it out safely. "We had to get the F out of there. They wasn't playing. We was almost boxed in," he shared during an interview. A few years later, in 1995, both Hammer and Redman were on the set for the final episode of Yo MTV Raps. Hammer approached Redman and told him, "Red, I'm gonna tell you something. You're young, but I don't allow nobody to talk about my mama. You understand me?" Redman, fully aware of Hammer's reputation, quickly apologized, saying, "Yes, sir."
MC Hammer was there. That approached me. He was like, "Red, I'm gonna tell you something. You young, but I don't allow nobody talking about my mama. You understand me?" I said, "Yes, sir."
Redman later explained that he learned his lesson. "I got the message," he said in a 2016 interview. "I heard about Hammer, and I seen his work. I'm good, my brother. I like the Bay Area, so F that. You're right. I won't talk about your mama." Riding the success of his first album, Redman wasted no time and followed up with Darkside in 1994. This album was different from his debut. It had a darker, more aggressive feel, and most of the production was handled by Redman himself. The first single, Rockefeller, sampled two of the most iconic songs in hip-hop history, Leon Haywood's I Wanna Do Something Freaky to You and George Clinton's Flashlight.
While is that brother coming 6 billion feet from beneath, and you should be peeping how I get smoked.
While he would later hand over most of the production work to others, this album showed that Redman knew how to craft a whole sound. But behind the scenes, Redman was battling his own demons. Years later, he admitted that he was heavily using drugs during the recording of There Is a Darkside. The album reflected his mental state at the time, dark, chaotic, and unpredictable. After the darkness of There Is a Darkside, Redman bounced back in 1996 with Muddy Waters, an album that many fans consider one of his best works. It was packed with raw, unfiltered bars and gritty production, with hit singles like Whatever Man and It's Like That, My Big Brother.
You ready to get down, man? Whatever, man. You ready to get this on? Whatever, man.
One of the album's standout tracks, Do What You Feel, later made it onto the soundtrack for Grand Theft Auto, Liberty City Stories, giving it a new life among a fresh generation of fans. Around this time, Redman's circle was expanding in a big way. He built a strong friendship with Method Man, and he also connected with Tupac, leading to one of the biggest collaborations of his early career. Both Redman and Meth appeared on Tupac's Got My Mind Made Up, a standout track from All Eyes on Me. By the late 90s, Redman was solidified as one of the top MCs in the game. In 1998, he teamed up with Eric Sermon and Keith Murray to form Def Squad, and together they dropped their first collaborative album, El Nino. That same year, he also took part in the legendary Hard Knock Life tour, which included a stop in Toronto at the Air Canada Centre. The following year, he released his fourth studio album, Docs Da Name 2000, which became his biggest commercial success to date. The album was packed with energy, humor, and that signature Redman flow. It shipped platinum, making it his first album to surpass gold status. The project included hits like I'll Be Dat, Da Goodness, and Let Da Monkey Out, all of which made waves on the charts.
Who got the key to my beamer? Jack Mood, that's how we act.
Redman's chemistry with Method Man was undeniable, and in 1999, they gave the fans exactly what they wanted, a full-length collaborative album called Blackout. The album was a smash, setting the stage for one of hip-hop's most iconic duos. In 2001, Redman kept the momentum going with Malpractice, which peaked at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and quickly went gold. The album featured 2 major singles, Let's Get Dirty, I Can't Get in Day Club, and Smash Something. Around this time, Redman also started releasing his Ill at Will mixtapes under his own record label, Gilla House. His crew, including artists like Socrates, Icarus, Ready Rock, and E3, started making noise under the Gilla House imprint. In the same year, Redman gave the world one of the most legendary MTV Cribs episodes ever. While most rappers were showing off their mansions, luxury cars, and over-the-top pools, Redman flipped the script. Instead of renting a lavish spot just for TV, he insisted on filming at his actual home in Staten Island, a small, messy, and regular apartment.
Over here is what I call Exhibit A. This is where I got my clothes and crap. Got my ironing board right here. You know, we iron on the floor in here.
Speaking years later on it, Redman revealed that MTV had actually lined up a few fancy houses for him to pretend were his, but he wasn't with the fake flexing. If he was gonna do it, it had to be real. The crew had to be cut down to just 2 people because that was all that could physically fit inside his tiny place.
We want to do your MTV Cribs, and I was like, oh, and the first thing they said was, all right, we got a couple of houses picked out for you. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, you know what? I got a house for y'all to come. It was like a film crew of almost this size, and they it down to like 2 people. 1 camera guy and 1 sound guy, and that was it. Because that was all that could fit in my house.
The episode became iconic. There was no doorbell, just 2 wires that had to be pinched together to let visitors in. Redman's cousin, Mr. Cream, was casually knocked out on the floor wrapped in a comforter. Everything about the episode was raw and unfiltered.
Oh yeah, that's my cousin right there. He be knocked out over here, you know, chilling in the cut. That's Sugar Bear right there. Don't worry about him. He don't even hear y'all. Y'all not like he even.
Nina L. Diaz, MTV's VP of programming, later called it the most infamous, most cited episode of the show. To this day, fans still bring it up as one of the realest moments in hip-hop TV history. Redman's biggest mainstream moment came in 2002 when he teamed up with Christina Aguilera for Dirrty.
Yo, Christina, better hop in here. My black live and in color, like Rodman. Yeah!
The song became an international hit, exposing Redman to a whole new audience outside of hip-hop. Around this time, he also appeared on a popular remix of Pink's Get This Party Started. Even though Redman was becoming a household name, his credibility in hip-hop remained untouched. In fact, Eminem cited him as one of his biggest influences in the song Till I Collapse. After a long break between albums, Redman finally came back in 2007 with Red Gone Wild. The album, produced by Chris Pinsett, took longer to drop than fans expected. Redman later explained on MySpace that hip-hop was changing so fast, and he wanted to make sure the album fit the new era. Meanwhile, rumors of another Redman and Method Man album started heating up. In 2007, the duo announced Blackout 2, the sequel to their 1999 classic. Fans were hyped, but the release date kept getting pushed back. To keep the buzz alive, they dropped Broken Language 2008, a remake of Smooth Da Hustler and Trigger Thaw Gambler's classic Broken Language. The track spread across the internet, fueling excitement for the album. Red and Meth even teased it during a performance at the University of Florida. Originally, Blackout 2 was supposed to drop in December 2008, then it got pushed to early 2009. Finally, on May 19, 2009, the album officially hit the shelves. The wait was worth it. It debuted at number 7 on the Billboard 200, number 2 on the top R&B/hip-hop albums, and number 2 on the top rap albums. It also landed at number 10 on the Canadian Albums chart. In its first week, the album sold 63,000 copies, proving that the duo still had that magic. While still killing it in music, Redman also found his way into the film industry. In 2001, he and Method Man co-starred in the cult classic stoner comedy How High. The film followed 2 weed-loving students who end up at Harvard thanks to some special study methods. The movie became a hit, especially among hip-hop and stoner audiences. Redman also dipped into horror, landing a major role in Seed of Chucky, the 2004 installment in the Child's Play franchise. But that wasn't the only way Redman made his mark outside of music. He and Method Man became playable characters in the Def Jam video game series, appearing in Def Jam Vendetta, Def Jam Fight for NY, and Def Jam Icon. On TV, Redman and Method Man even had their own sitcom, Method and Red, which aired on Fox during the 2003-2004 season. Unfortunately, it didn't last long. Over the years, Redman stayed active with more albums and collaborations. Even as hip-hop evolved, Redman remained true to himself. In 2015, he dropped a 420-themed streetwear collection with the New York brand Mighty Healthy. The collection featured jerseys, t-shirts, hats, and other cannabis-inspired gear. Decades into the game, Redman has done it all, and to this day, he's widely respected as one of the best to ever do it.